I'm now ready to set the holes for this pouch. And the way I do that is very simple. I line up these holes as I've done in the past, so I know where this pouch is going to set. I'm going to literally just put the pouch on it, get a feel for where it's going to sit. I could measure it, but you know, I'm not going to. I know basically where it's going to set, and that's about right. I have a good eye for that usually. So that's about where I'm going to set it. Right there. Okay? I'm going to set it down. I'll turn it to the side here so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to set it down here, try to keep it. If you want to measure it, you can. So there you're about 3/4 from the edge. Here I'm just shy of 3/4 by a 1/16. So I can move it over a little bit. You're going to have your flap up here. I'll move it down just a little. So this is how you're going to set your holes, okay? You're going to take this piece here. Actually, I'm going to flip it this way so the holes are all away from me. Remeasure if that's your sort. If you like just doing it by eye, you can do that too. There you go. That's 3/4 and 3/4 distance away. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the awl, and you're going to do this with a label or with this. Even a credit card holder, whatever else you're going to do, more than likely you're going to be doing this process. I'm literally going to take the awl and I'm going to poke it right into the hole and then poke through. That will mark the hole for this pouch. Push all the way as deep as you can. Make sure that you puncture through the pouch itself. Puncture all of these holes here. Try not to let the pouch face slide over. Be mindful of your holes so that you don't skip one. Although it's not going to matter in the end, because I'm going to end up using the punch to finish up the holes, to get them all the way done. And you just slowly mark all your holes, like so. That one's a little bit stubborn. As I said, just keep marking your holes. And I did make one mistake. When you do this, you want to make sure you have your flap on hand. Otherwise, like carefully push it back down, try to keep it in the same position, because you're going to want your flap here so that you can set your flap against it and you can actually do the holes for your flap, like so. I can move that away. Now I'm going to punch the holes for the flap, because they are lined up with this piece, as you saw. I lined it up right with that piece. I'm going to punch the holes for the flap. Nice and strong holes so that you can see them in this pattern, because it may be tricky to see them in this pattern otherwise. That hole seems to be missing. There we go. I just don't have the hand strength I used to have. So I'm punching all these holes. So the holes are marked exactly as they should for the pouch and the flap. Now you might be thinking, well, that pouch isn't going to be stitched directly to that, is it? And the answer to that is no, it's not. The flap will, but not the pouch. So there you have it. You have the lines for the flap right here. Now you have the lines for the pouch. So now, this is going to be tricky to see. I'm going to line up the holes for the flap. Let me see if I can get close in so you can see. I can just see the holes there. There you go. Make sure to go all the way through, and they do. These holes are a little tricky to see, but they are there. Get a nice strong hole in there. Okay. Check that again. My holes go to right there. Okay, so those are the holes for the flap. Next I'm going to be doing the holes for the these are a little hard to see, but they go about right there. I wish I could show you that. It's hard to see it. Even I'm having a hard time seeing it. There we go. Flip it over to this side. Holes are right there. I'm just pushing it right where the awl holes are, right there. And I'm going to do this line here. The round I'm going to have to do with the 1 or 2 piece. So now I'm just doing these ones right now. The ones I can use a straight punch for. Like so. It's a little tricky seeing these holes. In this leather here. There. Okay. Up to right there. Okay, so I got those holes in place, as you can see. It's easier to see on this side. And I'm missing the round right there. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. I need to get my 2 pointer because I can't find my number 1. And I'll just do the 2 pointer. See, I've got one here, like so. Got one right here. And I've got one right here in the middle, if you recall. There's the round on that side. Now I got to do the round on this side. 1, 2, and 3, it looks like. Okay, there. There's the round. Do the next part. There you go, and then I've got one more right here. And that sets the holes As you can see from the inside, I'll show you here, there's all the holes now for the flap and the pouch. It's all set in place. And then this flap here will go right here. Line's a little bit off. Happens sometimes. And then the flap will go like this, and it'll curl around over the top of it like this. Just like so. So I'm going to have to do the buttonholes. And I will use this piece to do the buttonholes, actually. And that'll be the basic pouch with the side, of course. So the first thing I do is the buttonholes. I need to set the buttonholes for this. And I'm going to need the button I'm going to use so I can see how far it needs to go down. I'm going to use silver. So it's going to go about right there. Let's see, let me get this in the line here. The buttonhole is going to go about right there. There we go. And then once I get the buttonhole set, I'll put the other one over here and get the right measurement for that hole. Making sure that there's enough room for this as well, and there is. So that sets the buttonhole for this one here, right there. So those are my buttonholes. And now I can punch those. There we go. So those are the buttonholes for that. Buttonholes for this are already set. They'll go like that. Before I do any of the other stitching, I'm going to do the buttons. I may as well just go ahead and place them. So this part here is going to be done with this style. Like that. So the way this works, this goes on top and this goes on the bottom, like so. And then this sets on top, like that. So I have a little metal piece to hammer onto to make sure that it has a nice solid surface. But you can do it to the cutting board if you want. In fact, I think I'll do that. It's not necessary to worry about it on this part. Make sure I have the piece that'll fit over this. See that? It looks like I have two of the same one. I screwed up here. So this is the post, this is the cap. So I almost did the wrong one. I'm going to put the post in there, like so. This is the cap. And then this will be the piece that fits over the cap. And I got the right one, it slides right in nice. Okay. What I'm going to do, take a small dab of super glue. I always do a little bit of super glue, just a dab of it to help hold it in place. Sometimes these don't hold in place very well. There we go, just a little dab of it. Just enough to secure it in place. Put it over there, like so. Put this on, and then hammer it in place. Pretty straightforward. Do the next one. Put the post in. Take the cap. Put a dab of super glue on. You don't have to do the super glue, but it helps to hold it in place. Sometimes they pop off on you, especially the cheaper ones. And then hammer it in, like so. And that is done. Next thing we'll do is work on this one. This one's a little different, because you're going to actually put the cap on. Like so. And this time I am going to use the rounded cap for it. Something like this. So the button fits right into there and doesn't get damaged. And it's usually a good idea to put some kind of a buffer on there as well. Just so you don't damage your button when you do this. Like so. Put it in place there. Slide this over the top, like so. Then I'm going to get my spreading tool right here, set it in there, and do it a nice and firm stamp, like so. There you go, there's the one. Same thing with this one. Put it on there. Slide it up in there. Cap over it. And there you have it. You have two buttons. Now we'll test it out and make sure that it actually sets on. So that's how this flap will work. It'll slide up over the top and then set on in place like that. You can see it's a little bit off. I don't like that about it. I might have to redo the flap, but that's how you do the button for the flap. So the next thing I need to do is I need to take the side piece and stitch it to this. And I'll do that in another video. I am now ready to stitch this side to the pocket face. So the way that we calculate this, I'm going to use green thread so it kind of keeps with the whole green theme. I usually do about 3 lengths of the actual piece I'm going to be stitching, at least. So there, to be on the safe side, is about how much I'm looking at. It's okay to do a little extra. You get used to sort of wasting thread. There you go. This is waxed thread. It's pretty straightforward. It's the go-to for doing something like this. I'm going to do as I've always done with the stitching of the needle. Slide it in, like so. And then I'll feed it back through it, like so, 3 times. And then I'll slide this over the thread like so. I have it in other videos, but that's the general gist of it. If you want to see it, I have a video specifically on threading needles. Go figure. I never thought when I was a kid that I would be doing videos on how to thread a needle. You know, maybe how to put out a fire, or, you know, because I wanted to be, I don't know, seemed like all the kids when I was a kid wanted to be an astronaut, a police officer, or a fireman. An officer, a police officer, an astronaut, or a fireman. There we go. And I find myself I'm none of those 3 now. So I didn't live up to my dreams, as it turns out. Okay, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to put, I find it easier to do right to left, I don't know why. So I'm going to put this right on the line, like so. Push through, like so. Pull all the way through till my needle, both of my needles are about the same length away. I'm going to stretch out my needle, as you can see here. That puts about half the thread on either side, that way. And I'm going to start threading it. Usually I start, in fact I can do that real quick to show you. No point. It's not a problem redoing it here real quick. Usually I start in the second hole, like so. Make sure you're in the second hole, like so. Do the same thing. Make sure your needles are matched up like this, and then pull to get half the thread through, like that. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to go into the top one right here, like so. Pull it through. Try to keep it separate from the other ones so you don't get them all tangled up. Push it through there, like so. Create a nice little loop. I'll go back to the second hole, like so. Nice and tight. And then back through the second hole on this one. So I get a nice strong loop at the top, like so. Then I'll pull it tight. Get nice and tight. That gives me a nice strong loop at the top. And I'll literally stitch around the edge, like so. One side and then the other. If you have a stitching station, this is a lot easier to do. Try not to split the thread, which is really easy to do. So, tight. One of the problems with stitching into black is it's kind of hard to see. And that is one of the advantages of doing a lighter colored thread like this, is it's easier to see. Oop, looks like I got a knot. This does happen occasionally when you end up with a knot in your threading. If you end up with a knot, there's 2 ways you can approach it. You can cut the thread at the knot, and rethread your needle, or just keep pulling the knot through the holes until there is no knot. I've done both. If you got a really, really long thread and you're doing something long, I just keep pulling the knot through so I don't run out of thread, because I'd rather have a knot, you know, in the seam somewhere than the alternative. So all I'm doing is simply trying to keep myself from wrapping up around the loop. I'm the worst at stitching, I swear. It's absolutely terrible how bad I am at stitching. So what did I do there? Look at that. That is hilarious. I actually looped around my piece, man. So what I'll do then is I'll just push it back through to undo it, and then get the right needle, the one I should have had to begin with. There we go. Try not to split the seam, or the thread as I call it. And I'm just going to stitch around the edge. Now you find when you stitch around the edge here, what's going to happen when you start doing around the loop. And this is where it gets interesting. You'll see how a round pocket is done at this point. And why you just do a long strip. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, push it through the hole, get really close here so you can see it. I'll push it through the hole here, line it up with this hole, right there, pull it through, do the next one on the other side, like so. It's not going to be even because you're doing on the round. Let's see if I can show it here. So I'm going to push it through this hole right here, like so, from the back side. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause this thing to curl around to create the side. You see, it's not even. It's off to the side a little bit, like so. Do the other one. Stitch through. I usually do one at a time when I'm doing it this way. So I stitch through one, and I stitch through the other, like so. Tighten it up, and it'll create the round and force this thing to become an actual side. In through there, in through there, like so. Try not to get it caught on your fingers or anything else in the way. Murphy's Law, if there's something in the way that it can snag on, it will. Guaranteed. And you're slowly going to tighten that around the pocket, like so. Keep going until you get to the straight, like so. Do the other side here now. Same thing, I push it through this hole and then through this one. You can see tightening around it, and it's following the curvature of the piece, as you can see. And that's how I'm going to create a little shallow pocket. Okay? Keep going. So you're basically stitching along the round, as I call it. Just like so. Sometimes it's tricky getting it in the hole there. Sometimes the holes don't get punched very well. going into here, like so. Just like you do. Oh, look at that. I looped around it. See that? And that's pretty straightforward to fix. I just pull the leather through. It's easy to make those kind of mistakes when you're doing the stitching. Easier for some than others, as it turns out. One thread at a time. Now you know why I'm not involved or married. Bad singing spontaneously has a way of doing that. So what it's done is it's created a round portion of the pocket, like so. And then when I stitch the other piece, it'll pull it the other way, like that. And that's how the pocket is formed. Normally I'd be singing right now. For me, this is like being in the shower, right? Problem is, I don't have the copyright for any songs, so unless I'm singing my own song, which wouldn't be worth listening to. I did write a song at one point. Not a very good one, mind you, but I did do it. Slowly just stitch around the edge, just like so. Once you get to the straightaway, it's a little easier. You don't have to do the push through two holes separately. You can just stitch it together again. I'm not sure how effective this little pouch will be. It is rather small. Now, if you do split the thread, you can just keep going if you want. You know, sometimes it doesn't really do anything to it, and sometimes it does. It depends on where you split the thread. But it's usually not a good idea if you're going to avoid it. I'm approaching the round. Nice and tight. Check your stitching every now and then to make sure that you're getting it done. Now, the thing about doing pockets like this is the techniques themselves are fairly universal. It can be applied to virtually any size. I could have made this 12 by 12 right here and then just measured my side piece for the depth of the pocket that I want And the same techniques you use for a little one like this is the same technique you'd use for a large one. So once you know the process itself, you can use that process to create virtually any size of pocket you want. And that's the advantage of knowing the technique versus just having a pattern. When you know the technique, you can alter it, modify it, change, add to it to your liking, and create custom stuff. Let's face it, if you have any interest in making money doing this in particular, you have to be able to do stuff that's custom. I'm getting to the point now where I'm almost at the round, where I have to start monitoring where this needle's going to go. So it creates the rounded section, like this. So that's my last hole of a straight shot right there. There we go. And then I'll have to start monitoring it for the round. As I did before with the round, I'm going to do one hole at a time, like so. Let me get really close up there so you can see it. I'm going to push through one hole first, right here. You can see it on the other side. Push through the other. Come out the other side. Leave it a little bit open. It's easier when you do, so you can see the needle going through the other hole. I'm going to take that, push it back through the other hole, like so. Tighten. Do the same thing with the next one. Push through here, through there. Leave it a little bit open so you can see. Push through here. Then through there. That's the advantage of having a round needle, is you can put your finger right up to the hole and feel it coming through. And you don't poke the crap out of your skin. Tighten. And you just keep doing that until you make the round, as I call it. I try to keep my needles and threads separate so they don't get them confused and do the wrong one like I did earlier. It gets a little bit tricky when you're doing a pouch like this and you're doing double threading. I've done that before, and it's a lot harder to do that. As you get to the end of the round, it becomes a little bit more challenging to pull it back through. But it can be accomplished. I'm almost to the straight, as I call it. Like so. Kind of like this green thread. I think it looks nice. Definitely different. Okay, almost to the end of this part. Yep, didn't want to go in there. It's being stubborn. There we go. being stubborn on these last holes. It. I want to go in that last hole. There we go. And I stitch it back through one more time here, just to be on the safe side for when I do my burn. A nice strong burn on there. Cut this like so. Get a nice curl around my finger so I can pull tight. I do my I always do the inside first, particularly where the thread ends are, like so. Smooth it in. And I'm going to burn all around the inside of this, like so. Get it nice and smooth. Do the outside. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit more now for this part so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to burn the outside now. Smooth it a little bit. And what you have here is a basic little pocket, as you can see. Very small little pocket that you can put light stuff inside of. And then this will get stitched to the actual pouch. Now here's the reason why I don't worry so much about the length. Once you get this done, you just simply trim it, like so. There you go. Now it's trimmed there. Now trim the other side. And I've got the trimmed pieces now. So there's your little pocket, buttons and all. It's a very small pocket when it goes on there. And what I'll do is I'll literally stitch this right to the pouch, like so, and it'll have a neat little pocket on the back, like that. Hello everyone. So today I did this yesterday, put in all the stitching, created this neat little pocket or pouch, and now I'm going to actually stitch it in place today so you can see what that looks like. Honestly, it's a bit large. It kind of sticks out a little bit. I'm not so sure I'm going to like that. I think if it were me, I would rather just have this with a nice cool label on the front of it. I'm sorry, on the back of it. But if you want to create a neat little side pouch and everything, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, just to show it. So now I've got to stitch this onto this. Now I have my needle here with a little thread I have left over. It's not always a bad idea to keep these, because you never know. Sometimes you'll run into situations where you might need a little bit of extra thread and you don't want to, you know, this is literally how much thread you need. So it really depends on the length whether or not I decide I'm going to keep it. Or you can just toss it. It's not necessary. You know, it's not like thread's so expensive that you gotta, you know, that's made out of gold or something. Golden thread, protect it and preserve it. Not really. So I got to factor in the amount of, I originally determined that the length of this side here is about, let's see, how much did I factor? Originally I'd cut out 20 millimeters, so The actual distance was looks like 15. That was the actual distance along here, was 15 centimeters. But it's not a big deal. So I'm going to do usually about 3 lengths, as I've said in the past. There's 1, 2, 3. And I like to do a little bit of extra, a little bit longer, just so that I don't have to redo it or stitch in an extra piece of thread to account for my mistake. It's kind of a pain and it detracts a little bit from the design. Go ahead and thread in my needle, as I've shown in other videos. One, 2, and 3. Pull it through. There we go. That one's threaded. Next one. This one doesn't want to go in. Butterfingers today. Cannot seem to get. Everything does not appear to be going well today. I cooked up some nice ribs and, well, they weren't very good, quite frankly. Spend all that time. It's like when you buy a steak that's not tender. It kind of stinks. That's the way it goes. So this gets stitched on the outside, not the inside. I'm going to sort of fold this out so that I'm not fighting the curvature of it, because that will happen. And I like to stitch from right to left myself, so I'm going to start on the right side. Put my thread through here, on my needle, sorry. Now if you want, I could have darkened that a little bit, and I probably should real quick. But I'm going to cheat it. Just take a Sharpie. Just for now. This is called cheating right here, where you literally just take a Sharpie and just mark it real quick. Cheat, cheat, cheat. I just don't feel like getting my dye out and then waiting for it to dry and everything else, so I'm just going to do that. See, I said I wanted to go from right to left, so make sure you don't stitch it the wrong way and then have to pull the whole thing off again. That would be embarrassing. I've done that before, but I have the good sense not to show it in a video. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing where I get my needles together, hold them like this, try to hold the pouch in place, and I didn't do what I normally do. This happens sometimes, you're not paying attention. And on a pouch, it's actually necessary to do this. On a pocket like this, let me do this over again. Second hole, not the first one, but the second hole, like so. Make sure you're in the right hole. This is going to be going here. Yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many times I've screwed up like that. And this is going to go into the second hole here, like so. I'll take the 2 needles, sort of hold it in place here, like so. You can clamp it if you want, but you know, it won't take long before you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to pull this all the way out so that I get the halfway mark. Then I'm going to take this and put it through the first hole, push it through the first hole like so, pull it all the way through, try not to catch the other one, like so. Push this back through the second hole. The starting of it is always the worst part of it, because it doesn't want to stay in place. because you don't really have a good knot yet. Okay. Now, what have I got here? Okay. This one's going to go through here, like so. Come around, second hole, and now I'm in the right place. I've got 2 loops around the top of that pocket now, okay? So now I can just start stitching in the way I should. It'll hold in place now without too much difficulty. Make sure you get in the right hole. You do not want to get in the wrong one. I'm all butterfingers today. I swear I cannot seem to get this. Okay. This kind of stitching is kind of a pain to do. You'll see it eventually, it'll be like this once I get it stitched around. Okay. Nope. If the thread can snag on something, it will. That's the Murphy's Law. Make sure I get the right one. I've done that where I've gotten the wrong one and pushed it through. Okay. Make sure it's in the right hole. See that? It's got to go into the same hole there. Sometimes it can get tricky. There you go. Pull it tight. Keep stitching it from one hole to the next. There you go. Pull tight. I'm getting close to the round now, and this is where you'll start facing a little bit more of a challenge to get it in the right hole. Because right now I can just push it right through one end to the other, but once you start doing the round, it's going to resist that. You'll see here, when I go to put it in, it's not matching up perfectly with the hole now. See if I can get it showing there. So, what I will have to do, I need my light, so you can see it. There we go. See there, now, the round is where it gets a little tricky because it doesn't want to go in the right hole. It has to go all the way over to here. You can see the hole right there. Got to go into that hole there, like so. This one has to go into the same hole and comes out right there. So you can see it here. Kind of hard to see, but it goes right into that hole there. Pull tight. Same thing here, you're going to put it in this hole, and then you'll put it into this one right there, in line. Just keep doing it. It's going to resist it a little bit because you're doing the round. And the natural inclination isn't to go... Oh, encountered a bit of a problem here. For some reason, it does not want to come through. Try that again. There it goes. Okay. sometimes it gets bunched up. So the next one, once you're through the round, you get to the straight, then it'll be a little bit easier. There we go. You know, look back to the back side there. See if you can see it. Right there. That's where I'm going. Hold tight. Into this hole. You can see the other holes right there. Try not to get in the wrong hole or you have to do it over again. It's easier to see on the back side. You can see the hole right there. Into this hole. Into this one right there. Right here. If I can get it. There you go. Keep doing it. Sometimes the thread gets caught up in there, but just, you know, smooth it out. See right there? Just keep going down the line. Got a bit of a knot in this right here for some reason. Happens sometimes. And as I said before, if it gets to be too tiresome, you can cut your thread or just keep going. Just pull it through the holes. I just pull it through the holes rather than cut the thread and do all that. When you do enough of this stitching, you get used to just putting it in the right hole to begin with. You get accustomed to do it. Practice makes almost perfect. That's my motto. Perfection is unattainable. There we go. Keep going. Now I'm on the straight. It's a little easier just to get into the right hole, as you can see. If you just push through, the chances are you're going to end up in the right hole. Like so. Trying to keep this stuff from getting all caught up and wrapped and knotted is actually part of the challenge of stitching. I have an actual stitching station, but it's kind of a pain actually. I'm having a hard time with that one. I even split the thread, unfortunately. But the thread there wasn't a lot of area for the thread to fray, so I'm not worried about it this time around. It can be a problem though. If you have too much length, you can actually split your thread and then cause a problem later. On the straight, it's a lot easier, as I said earlier, to just get it right into the hole without having to do the monkey-do dance. This is your run-of-the-mill staddle stitch. Nothing fancy about it. Oh, I got snag right there. Murphy's Law. If it can snag on something, it will. If you can cut yourself, you probably will. Oh, it's like he got caught up in there. That happens sometimes. I'm getting close to the round, so I've got to be a little bit more mindful of my stitching here. Soon I'm going to be running into the problem or the challenge I faced earlier. So you can get shaping up into an actual pocket now. Oh. Already I'm having a harder time getting it into the hole, as you can see. Dang near poked through the material there because I was trying to force it. Okay. So I have to be a little more careful now. I'm going to have to do one hole at a time, like so. I'm in that hole, and then I'm in this hole, like so. Come around the other side, push it in there, pull it out just a little bit, and you can see I'm going to push it right through this one, like so. Pull it tight. There's a lot more tension put on this round than this one. So it gets more of a challenge when you're doing this part of it. So I do the first one first, like so. See, I'm right in the hole there. I'm going to push it into this hole, pull on it. I'm not going to pull it all the way tight yet. I'm in this hole, you can see here. Come around, and I'm going to come right out this hole. Try to anyway. Come on, there you go. Now it's coming out the one I need, and it's like I got a little bit of a knot there. Or it just gets bunched up, not so much a knot. So I'm into this hole there, and I'm going to pull it back and put it into there, as you can see. Same thing here, coming through there, and then up through here. Try not to split your thread if you can help it. I just did. But I don't want to go all the way back through it. So I'm going, this is where it gets tough, right here. You can see it really doesn't want to match up very well. So I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to push it through that hole, and then I'm in through the other one, like so. It's what they call the round, stitching the round. In through this hole there, you can see the needle coming through. Come up through the back, push it right through there. Pull it through. This one keeps bunching up, unfortunately. Where is it here? Not supposed to do that. Dang it. Sometimes you get one that just wants to resist the stitching. There you go. Get it nice and tight. Same here. Pushing it through this hole there, and I'm going to take my needle, just sort of pull it back, slip through that hole there. Do the same thing here. You can see the needle's going through, and I'm going to push it right up through the other one, like so. Pull it tight. through this hole here, like so. Pull it back, make sure I'm in the right hole. Get in the wrong hole and you're going to have a problem. It's a lot easier to see on the back there. So be really careful to get it into the correct hole. You can see right there the thread's frayed a little bit. That's what happens when you split your thread, is it can become a little frayed. But it's not a major concern at this point, because when you, same here, see there, I'm pushing it through the hole, coming up and through the other one. This one here is the one that keeps catching. Same thing there, come through there, up through this hole. You see the pocket starting to form. I mean the pouch, pocket, whatever you want to call it. That hole there, right into there. Hole here, up through the back. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky. Doesn't always want to go. This is particularly true if you're in a tight area for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it almost like wants to resist you when it's in a more difficult spot. Almost done. Getting really close to the end here. Oop. That's kind of interesting. I'm one hole shy. Where'd the other hole go? See that? Somewhere along the line I skipped a hole. So what do? You got an extra area, but no hole to put it in. Now you do what I would do. Right here. Set it flat down on the ground. Pull it over forward like this. Let me zoom in so you can see here. Sometimes this happens for whatever reason. You skip a hole somewhere along the way and you're not sure where it went. So I don't know if you can see it here. Right there. Let's pull this tight. And I'm going to pull this flat back right about where it would normally be, right there. So you can see it. That's about where that hole should be, but there isn't a hole there. It just happens sometimes, for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. Then I have to take my awl, like so. See that? Push it through, all the way, and then create your hole. Didn't go all the way through. There we go. Fortunately, that's going to create a problem down the road. Hate to say it, but it is. Okay, there we go. The reason why it's going to create a problem is because of these flat holes right here. Are very precise. So now I've got all the way to the end there. I always go back at least one more. Let me zoom out. Had to make a hole here, but it's worked out okay. Now I got to go back one more hole to make sure that I can get this all nice and tidy. Tighty-whitey. Kind of like the underwear. In fact, I'm going to go back one more hole just to be on the safe side. Like so. So now I've got two holes that are nice and tightly stitched. Like so. And then I can cut it. Okay. Time to do my, see here, all the stitching along the back here. It'll take some time for it to kind of take its shape, but it will eventually take its shape. Not perfect. I missed a hole there. For some reason, I'm missing a hole right here. That's where the hole should have been. As I said, I'm an amateur. Sometimes things happen and you just work around it. Is it an acceptable mistake? Yes. Am I that worried about it? Nah. It's not like anyone's going to, look at your pouch and say, "Oh my God, you missed a hole there, buddy." That's not going to happen. No one's going to look at this and say, "Uh-oh, he missed his hole. Definitely missed it. You can tell it's screwed up." Well, what will normally happen is your family go, "Oh, yeah, that looks kind of neat." So there we have. Now we have a back pouch. I'm ready now to look at doing the flap. You can put little stuff in there, basically. So this flap's supposed to go down like that, but now it doesn't look like it's going to. As you can see here. It matches up on this side, but the holes don't match up on this side. Oh, look at that. Notice a problem? This flap's not long enough. See that? Watch, I'll show you. When you round it around, imagine this flap gets like this, because that's what it's supposed to do. There's no room for the flap to go in and set in place. The flap's too short. Way too short. Oh, that means I'm going to have to make another flap. See that? It's unfortunate. So you'll see that I noticed that a little earlier though, and I altered the patterned video to accommodate this change here so that the flap's actually big enough. And these holes are going to be a bit of a problem too. Right here. I should have put them a little bit higher and not had it so close to the pouch, and then it wouldn't have been an issue. So now what I'm going to have to do is, there's a quick little cheat which I'm going to show you on this just so you can see it. It's a cheat, but it works. Okay? You literally just cut a notch right here, like so. Cut a notch right here, like so. You notch both ends, and then you just skip one of the holes. So now this flap, if I were going to use it, would actually fit. I just wouldn't use this last hole, like so. You would skip, let's see here if you can see it. So it would fit right onto there. So I would cut off one of the holes on each side, and then that would compensate for the fact that my stitching for the pouch is too close to the top of the pouch. I should have put the holes right here and gave myself a little bit more room to work with. That would have been the safe bet. but I didn't. That's my mistake. Okay, so now I have to go and make this so that I can proceed. This was my original flat pattern that I made, and I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit. Hate to say it, but sometimes, you know, you don't feel like redoing everything. Sometimes it's a good idea just to sort of cheat it a little bit. So I'm going to take a piece of soft black leather, which is really good flap material anyway, and I'm going to go ahead and redo this flap. And rather than create a new pattern, I'm just going to use the existing one. I'm just going to make it longer. So originally I added 5/8 to this flap to account for that change. So that's how much I have to add to this. I've already checked this. This is relatively straight right here. So I can literally just take and line this up. This line. My flap's going to be there. And I'm going to measure where I need to make my cut. And I'm going to add 5/8 to it. So I got to make my cut right I'm going to do 3/4 to be on the safe side right here. Right there. That's where I have to cut my flap. Right there. Okay? So I'll make my cut. If I can find my rotary knife. And I've made myself a new flap. I'm not going to have to dye it or anything because it's already the right color. Next thing I need to do is to cut the lines. Doesn't matter if I get really close to the edge but I do want it to be straight. So I'm going to go ahead and square off one and just start from there. So this is going to get squared off. That's in line there, this is in line there, and I square off one edge so it's straight. Make sure it's straight, and it is. And then I'll take the flap and I'll put it over here. I like to cut to the right side, it's just easier for me. Put the flap right up to the edge here. Like so. And then I'll line this up with that edge. Try to keep it nice and straight. And there I have my flap. Now I just have to do the edge. And I can actually take this and use this as my edge. Or I can take the actual flap itself that I screwed up on, if I can find it, and use that to do the round. Sorry, I'm a little frustrated at having to redo this to begin with. Look at that, that's not straight. It's a little bit off. Sometimes when you're cutting that happens. You don't get it exactly straight. There we go. So where did my flap go? Here it is. And it's going to follow the basic trajectory there. But I really don't like how I did this one to begin with, so I'm just going to use a penny and do it on the cutting board. Right here. Use a penny. And I'm going to redo it just on the cutting board with my cheap Chinese-made knife right here. Like so. Clean off the edges a little bit. There. Trying to sand soft leather just doesn't work very well. I hate to say it, but it doesn't. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Okay. Now if you want it to be perfectly on the other side the same way, you can fold it over like so, and then just cut the other one according to the same shape. There's a good chance you'll end up with the same shape on both sides, just like I did. I am going to try to sand it anyway, just show you. You can. It just looks kind of, it just makes danglies. That's what I call them, danglies, hanging off of there. Like so. That's just to keep the edges from being sharp. Although you can't really make soft leather sharp. Flaps are really good out of soft leather. I like using soft leather for flaps anyway. Now, I've got the holes made already. If I want, I can just literally take my flap and use the awl right here, and then just pop the holes, right like that. And I'm going to use the other flap so that these holes line up perfectly with the other one. Trying to keep this straight. That way I don't run into a problem where the holes don't line up. Like so. So I got all my holes right there. Now I'm going to actually punch them. Like so. Put on my light so you can see. See here, I'm going to line up the holes that I just punched with the awl. Like so. Line up the holes. Keep my thing straight. Grab my hammer. There we go. Same thing here. Line up the holes. Like so. Roll it up. Keep it straight. There you go. Line up the holes. Roll it up. Keep it straight. Okay, now since I cut out the extra hole at the end, I am not going to do holes all the way to the end. What I am going to do is I'm going to set it up so that it doesn't impact with the pouch here, where the hole kind of disappears on the one edge. I'm going to take and I'm going to round off this little bit right here. Now I'm going to cheat and use a tool for doing that. But if you had to do it, you could just cut it with a pair of scissors. Like so. In fact, I'll just do it with a pair of scissors to show you. I'm just going to cut a little bit off the edge here, like so, and around. Just like so. Do the same thing on the other edge. I'm just doing it by eye. And there you have two round circles at the edge. Now me, I want it to be a little bit nicer, so I'm going to take my kit with all of my punching shapes, and I'm going to do one perfect, just because I want it to look a little bit nicer. But if you don't have that kind of stuff, you can just use a pair of scissors and try to do it that way. Question is, where are they? So my next project after this is to clean my workspace again. It is a constant battle of trying to find stuff if you don't clean up your workspace. So you can see the notch there. I need to take a little bit more out of this. So I'm going to do that. Just a little bit. There you go. That way it's more matched up with this one here. Okay. Now this, since I have a much longer length on the flap, it's not as critical to get these buttons right to the edge. So I'm going to take these buttons off so that I can use those holes to actually do the So here we go. I'm going to actually drill out these buttons. It's almost there. There we go. Drilled out the other button. Once they start spinning, that's usually a good sign that your button's ready to be pulled off. And there you have it. I've just pulled out these buttons. They go in the trash. And now I have the holes for this flap. And since I have a little bit more room now on the flap, I'm going to literally use these holes from the old flap to make the new ones. You can do this two ways. You can either use an awl, make the hole this way, or you can just punch right through it. And me, seeing as I don't like an extra step, I'm just going to punch right through it. Here's my punch right here. Here's my punch. I'm going to line up this flap the best I can, like so. Put it right into the center there, and punch right through, just like so. Line this up again. Trying to keep this as straight as I can. Punch right through it. And there we go. So now I have another flap. Now this is going to be flat. You'll see the difference in the color. This is going to be awfully flat. If you want it to match this, you can just put a coat of Resolene on there and it'll give that glossy appearance. So I'm going to put the flap here and it'll roll over like that. That's the basic premise. So I get a couple more buttons here. Since I screwed up the other. Get my spreading tool. Take this. Put this on like so. Put this on like so. See, I pushed it in through there. Go. Push this through here. Almost put it the wrong way. That's hilarious. You can so tell when someone's an amateur on these videos. because they do stupid things like that. I have done that. Literally put the button the wrong way, not even paying attention. It's hilarious. So there we have it. So now this will go right into here, like so, and then my flap will curl around like that. And that's how it'll look. See that? So I now have a fixed flap. Now I just have to install it. I like that, it looks nice. But I do need to put a coat of Resolene on that to really make it look sort of polished. And you'll do that before you put it on. So now I'm going to do Resolene on this. I am now ready to put on the flap for the pocket here. It's going to fit right into there like that. And it's going to come around and button in like so. So I need to put in this flap. I need to count the holes because I cut off the little corners. So I need to make sure these holes are going to line up. So counting holes here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 holes. Now we're going to check this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I screwed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I am shy 2 holes here. And that's because I had to cut the little corner here and I lost a hole on each side. So when I start the stitching here, I have to actually start from the second hole. I'm no longer going to be using this hole at all. I'm going to just be using this one. Now you can still stitch into the hole there and use it as a, a way of locking in this edge if you want. Although there was really no reason to do that. Corner piece right there. Come to think of it. Which happens sometimes. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so I usually do, as I said in the past, at least 3 lengths of what you're going to be stitching. At least. To be on the safe side. And then add a little bit extra for the threading of the needle. Okay? Cut that up. Now I'm going to thread my needle. I'm going to use the green because that's kind of what I've been using all along. And you know, threading the needle is the same as I've shown you in the past, where you take your needle, you pull it through here, you split the thread or the needle 3 times, like so, and then you pull it over it, like so. That locks in the thread so it doesn't, you know, roll around on you and pull out on you, which can be deeply frustrating. Same thing here. This needle looks like it's been bent a little bit, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging to try to get it in there. There we go, I lucked out. Sometimes Murphy's Law allows for a little bit of luck. You know, you can't have everything go wrong all the time. That should be one of the Murphy's Laws. That every now and then, the laws of the universe that say things are going to... Wow. Neighborhood cats, man. They're all over the place, fighting and carrying on, and nothing you can do about it. Okay, so I got my thread. In this case, the ruff will be on the inside. So what I'll do is I'll start here because it's easier to see the holes. Unfortunately, the holes are a little bit more challenging to see on the black. It's one of the things I dislike about using black, is the difficulty of actually seeing the holes. And I'll do what I normally do, where I start with actually the third hole, as you can see there. I'm going to start with the third hole and make sure that this goes into the second one, because I'm losing a hole on the side. And I'll back pedal to the other hole, pulling these forward like this to get them the same length. I'll back pedal to this hole, like so. Get that somewhat tight. Put it in the right one here. This one goes actually in here, like so. And then I'll be stitching the right direction. That allows me to create an extra loop here, as I've said in the past, to lock in that end, to strengthen it. Because if you're going to have a problem with threading coming loose, it's going to be in the end. Just like so. So get that nice and strong. Now we're ready just to move forward. Trying to keep in those holes right there. I really don't like stitching into black because, as I've said over and over again, tirelessly, it can be tricky figuring out where the hole is. And that's also the reason why I don't like using black thread when I'm stitching black, because it's hard enough seeing holes in the black without having to add black thread to the picture. You're literally creating a problem for yourself. Doing a simple saddle stitch here. The more stitching that you do, the more accustomed you become at doing it. Obviously, practice doesn't make perfect, but it does make you competent. And you get to the point where you kind of get a feel for where you need to put the needle, so that you can do this not effortlessly, but with a lot less likelihood of screwing it up. And that's what it boils down to. You're trying to lower the expectation of failure. Oh, I split the thread there. It's something you don't want to do if you can avoid it. So this process is pretty straightforward. Just you push the needle through one side, push the needle through the other side, and then you tug on the thread to close it up. Now, when you're doing long stretches of stitching, it is a good idea to have something like this. Really helps if you're going to do a lot of stitching, to have something like these Gorilla Grip gloves, because the threading will actually cut your hands, your fingers, at some point when you're trying to tug on that thread. And this gives you your access to your fingertips, so you can have this, the feel of the needle and knowing where it's going to go. You don't lose that ability, but when you go to pull on your thread over and over again for long stretches, you don't cut your fingers, because it pulls on it right there at your finger, the side of it, and these will help to protect it. And they have a nice grip to them too, so you can it's easier to grab the thread and the needle. Oh, that hole there doesn't seem to be fully punctured in. Sometimes you have that where you got a hole that you didn't get punctured in very well, and that is a problem. Or you just can't seem to get it in there. That's also a possibility. There you go. You can pull the flap back like that, and then, you know, it's easier to see the hole on the glossy side, and then do it that way. But there are times when your hole's not all the way punctured through. You didn't stamp the hole well enough, and then you have to take an awl or something and puncture through if you're using a round needle. Always use a round needle. Zippers are the only circumstance where I don't use a round needle, because I have really hurt my fingers in the past using sharp needles, and it gets old. So here I am, stitching this puppy up. Sing a song if you want, but I don't own the copyright on any songs, so I can't actually provide one. I mean, I guess I could do one that I wrote myself at some point, but I doubt you want to hear me singing. Seriously, a dog barking at the moon sounds better than my voice in singing. I've literally had people tell me, please, I'm begging you, stop. Please, please stop singing. Family and friends. That's how you know someone loves you, when they'll tell you to stop singing. Or maybe you know that they love you when they don't tell you to stop singing. I don't know. I guess you can see it both ways. When they actually are willing to tolerate your singing, then that's like true love or something. I don't know. If I knew anything about true love, I'd be writing a book. Maybe doing a love podcast or something. All I know about love, well, is that it takes two. It has to be reciprocated. There you go. It's coming along nicely. I like that green thread. I think it really pops. Even just doing colored thread can really add a little bit of dimension to your project. Make it look nice. At some point I'm going to do a project where I show you how to do the cool braid you can do on an edge. I've only done it once, but the project I did it on, it looked like crap other than the braid. Everything else about that project looked terrible, except the braid. The braid looked cool. I have to hand it to that braid. It did look neat. Okay, I'm at the end here. So now what I'll do, here it doesn't really matter whether I lock in the thread at the back or if I do it inside the flap, but I prefer to lock it into the back personally. That's where you cut the thread and then heat it up to strengthen it. And it's good to go 2 holes back for that, to really make sure that it doesn't pull out on you. Because I've had that happen where when I first started out, I didn't really worry about it, and it didn't last long before the thread popped out, and you got this thread dangling, and there's no real good way to fix it other than to do what I did before, where you tie a knot in it. Man, I'm having a hard time with that one. Just don't want to go into that hole. My fingers just aren't strong enough for it. So I'm going to show you something that I use on occasion when I run into a problem like that. This is a good thing to have if I can find it. Ay, ay, ay. I'd be a lot better at this if I didn't spend so much time trying to find stuff that I need. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera and go look for it. Something really handy to have when you're doing stitching are forceps. Allow you to clamp the needle. Because sometimes when you get something that just doesn't want to, it's hard to get your finger on. I like to clamp it with forceps at the tip, like so. And so I'm not trying to do it with my finger. With it nice and clamped, I can then push it through with the forceps, like so. And I'm not hurting my fingers to do it, because this one just does not want to go through. See, this forceps not as good as this one over here. This is the high quality one that I have. These are little cheapies. You can buy a set for like 20 bucks. This one's actually made out of surgical steel. I think this one's an actual surgeon's one, rather than a make-believe surgeon's one. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take the forceps. It's already clenched into the needle, and I'm going to poke it through using the forceps as leverage. Sometimes you get this where it just doesn't want to go through that hole for some reason. There you go, see? Finally went through. Then you unclamp your forceps, push it through, or use your forceps on the other side, like so, pull it through. And now you've got a nice tight, really tight. If you can barely even put a needle through there, then that's tight. And that's not going to come loose. I can now cut it like so. Fire it up. Get those little edges nice and melted, and then brush them like this. And then I will fire up the rest of the thread here to cook it. It does alter the color a little bit, but you want that strength. There you go. And there's my flap. Now we'll see the moment of truth. Will the flap actually work? There you go. You got a nice little flap. You got a nice little pocket on the outside. Now I'm ready to do the sides right here.